Okay, looks like I have everybody. Mr. Sweet, you can hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, very good. This is People of the State of Michigan versus Grant Sweet, docket number 20-690FH. And Mr. Sweet, I show your current address on West Vive Drive. Is that a correct address?
Yeah, it's 206 Vive Drive West.
Okay, and how far did you go in school?
How far? I am a senior right now.
Right now, okay?
Yeah.
And so are you a full-time student or do you work too?
I work too.
Where at?
I work at Little Caesars.
Okay, and would you raise your right hand, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Do I say that? I'm sorry.
You just need to say yes or I do.
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. And Mr. Sweet, you have the right to be represented by an attorney. You are represented by Mr. Hess. Mr. Hess, which count or counts is this a plea to?
Count one, Your Honor.
One, okay, and will you waive reading of the balance?
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Smith, would you read count one then?
Yes, Your Honor. In the case of the people of the state of Michigan versus Grant M. Sweet, Circuit Court Case Number 20-690-FH, the complaining witness says that on or about January 1st, 2020 to May 31st, 2020 at 2073 Gale Road, Onondaga Township, Ingham County, Michigan, the defendant did contrary to law engage in sexual penetration, to wit, penis, vaginal, with a child who was at least 13 years of age but under 16 years of age, contrary to Michigan law 750.520 DA1. This is a Tier 3 offense under the Sexual Offender Registry Act, unless the court finds that the victim was between the ages of 13 to 15 inclusive, consented to the conduct, and the defendant was not more than 4 years older than the victim. This is a felony punishable by up to 15 years. Mandatory AIDS and STD testing and DNA shall be taken. He did this against the peace and dignity of the people of the state of Michigan.
And there's a SORA requirement, correct?
Yes, Your Honor, there is a Tier 3 SOAR requirement. However, in this matter, we would fall under that exclusion where it's completely age-based. There was consent and there's not a 4 or more year difference. So it's my understanding that he would not fall under the SOAR requirements.
Sure, wanted to make sure. Mr. Sweet, you are being charged here with what's known as third-degree criminal sexual conduct. That is a felony punishable by up to 15 years in prison. So if you were on parole at the time, which I highly doubt due to your young age, but I have to tell you it would be a mandatory consecutive sentence. Have you had enough time to talk about this charge with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Do you understand the charge against you?
Yes, I do.
Do you have any questions about what we're doing?
No, ma'am.
How do you want to plead?
Guilty.
If your plea of guilty is accepted by this court, it means you won't have a trial of any kind, and you'll be giving up the rights that go along with a trial. That means you'll give up the right to a trial by jury, or if you didn't want a jury, trial by judge. You'll give up the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty, and your right to require the prosecutor to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. You will give up your right to have the witnesses against you appear at trial and to be able to cross-examine them, as well as the right to have this court order any witnesses that you might have to appear at the trial. You'll give up your right to remain silent at the trial and not to have your silence used against you, or in the alternative, to testify at the trial if you wanted to. Also, there's some things when you plead guilty that are different about appeals. One of them is that you don't get an automatic right to appeal your case to the higher court. Instead, you'd have to ask them to hear your case and they would have to agree to hear it. The other thing that's different is that there are a lot of issues that you cannot appeal to the higher court when you plead guilty, as opposed to people who go to trial. If they get convicted, they can appeal a whole range of issues. Do you understand those rights, Mr. Sweet?
Yes, ma'am.
If I accept your plea, it also means you cannot come back later on and try to say that the plea was the result of some promise or threat that nobody told me about today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
It also means you cannot come back later on and try to say that it really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there a plea agreement, Ms. Smith?
Yes, there is, Your Honor. The defendant would plead guilty to count 1 as stated. Upon successful plea and sentencing, the people would dismiss all remaining counts of the information. The people and defendant have reached an agreement under the People versus Killebrew that defendant shall be sentenced to a fixed 18-month term in the Michigan Department of Corrections under the Holmes Youthful Trainee Act. Upon release, the defendant would be placed on a probationary period for 12 months. And again, it is the party's understanding that according to the statute, the defendant would not be under SORA. But again, this is a tier 3 offense requiring life registration if SORA were to apply.
Very good, thank you. And Mr. Hess, is that a full and complete statement?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Your Honor.
And Mr. Sweet, is all of that your understanding of the agreement as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I've got to go over the sentence part of this. What they've agreed to is that it would be a fixed sentence, and this would be at what we call it YTA prison. But the sentences there are fixed. It's not so many years to so many years. It would be a flat, no less than 18, no more than 18. If I decided for some reason not to go along with that, I would tell you before I sentenced you, and I'd give you a chance if you wanted to take back your plea and start all over. You got all that?
Yes.
Has anyone promised you anything else in order to get you to plead guilty that hasn't been said here right now in court?
No, ma'am.
Has anyone used any threats?
No.
Is this your own choice to plead guilty?
Yes, it is.
And are you doing it because you believe you are in fact guilty of this offense?
Yes.
Okay, we don't need to say any names, okay? But there was a child involved. Tell me what you did.
I sexually penetrated her.
Okay, and when you say sexually penetrated, what part of your body? Penis?
Yes.
Okay, and did you put it in her vagina?
Yes.
How old was she at the time?
I'm not sure, like 14, I think. 14 or
Okay.
13.
All right, and you are 19, correct?
No, I'm 18. I just turned 18.
18. Okay. And this sexual penetration of this 14-year-old happened on Gale Road in Onondaga Township, Ingham County, Michigan. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Has the court complied with MCR 6.302? Ms. Smith?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Hess?
Yes, it has, Your Honor. Just for the record, that address is in Aurelius Township. It's just north of the Onondaga Township border.
Okay. Are you aware of any promises, threats, or inducements other than those already placed on the record, Ms. Smith?
No, I am not.
Mr. Hess?
No, Your Honor.
The court finds the plea is understandingly and voluntarily made without undue influence, threats, or promises of leniency. It is an accurate plea. It's supported by the testimony. The plea is accepted. And I have a sentencing date of Monday, March 22nd at 2:30, Mr. Hess. Does that work for you?
That's fine,
And
Your
Ms.
Honor.
Smith?
Thank you.
And Ms. Smith as well?
March 22 at 2, you said, Your Honor?
2:30.
2:30. Very good. Thank you.
Okay, then we will proceed at that time, and I'm going to need Mr. Sweet in person
Okay.
for this one. So if you would do that, Mr. Sweet. We are keeping all of our distances. I will wear a mask. We've got the courtroom cleaned and everything is being, we're complying with all the safety guidelines. So we will meet you here in person though. So you will also be contacted by someone from the probation department. Mr. Sweet, they're going to set up an interview. They'll do it remotely, but they're going to set up an interview with you. It's really important because it's for the report that I will use for sentencing. So
Okay,
just make sure, if you don't hear from them, actually, I would ask you to contact them right off the bat. Just contact them right away and tell them you need to schedule that. Mr. Haas can give you the contact number if you need it. But other than that, if you don't have any questions, we're all set.
okay, thank you.